This is hand strengthening. Start by getting grounded down into your body, feet symmetrical, turned out, shoulder width. And begin with flexing the lumbar spine and extending the lumbar spine. Tucking and then extending the pelvis. Work progressively deeper into lumbar flexion and lumbar extension as you go. Throughout the whole practice, try to connect your awareness to your body by saying the movements to yourself. Lumbar flexion, lumbar extension. Tuck the pelvis, extend the pelvis. Now let's add the thoracic spine. Thoracic extension and thoracic flexion. Extension brings the shoulder blades together and flexion spreads them apart. Shoulder blades together, shoulder blades open. And thoracic flexion closes the chest, while thoracic extension opens the chest. Extension opens the chest, flexion closes. And now let's add the cervical spine. And say to yourself, neck extension, neck flexion, cervical extension, cervical flexion. And now let's add the legs. So bend the legs as you start to flex and straighten the legs into extension. And now add the breath. Inhaling into extension, exhaling through flexion. Inhale up, exhale, sink down. Let your arms move however they want. This practice is called unified body. One part moves, all parts move. Now we're going to move on to body weight squats. Squeeze the muscles in your perineum when you squat. That feels like holding in a urine stream or holding in a fart. This really helps. It's really important for the blood circulation and to prevent hemorrhoids or prolapse. Check to make sure your weight distribution is 50-50 by making small shifts to the left and right. You can relax your spine. There's no need to actively flex and extend. Just allow it to happen on its own. Next, we're going to sit in a squat. This activates your lateral rotators and opens the hip joints. So use your elbows to open your hip joints, press out. Now keep your knees where they are as you take your elbows off your legs. You'll feel your lateral rotators in the glute area working. Keep your knees right there. Push your range of motion using your elbows. Work your lateral rotators, hold your knees where they are. You can rock back and forth a little bit and do a couple more squats to balance the blood flow. I'm going to move on to arm circumduction to open the shoulder joint. Hands supine as you lift the arms, prone as you lower the arms. Palm up in the front, palm down in the back. That's to ensure the external rotation of the arm, internal rotation of the arm bone in the socket. Don't mind the dog. Go both ways, so go forward now. Right, palms down, and then palms up. Palms down to the back, palms up to the front. You can also do one-sided. You want to do one arm at a time. Palm up the front, palm down the back. Now shoulder blade protraction and retraction. Shoulder blades apart, shoulder blades together. Shoulder blade protraction, shoulder blades apart, shoulder blade retraction, shoulder blades together. Also maintain that hollow hold, which is the lumbar and the thoracic flexion that we practiced in the beginning. So pelvis tucked, chest slightly closed. And here I'm doing about 5 reps, protraction and retraction, and then I'm holding the protraction on that 5th rep for about 10 seconds, checking the hollow hold throughout. Retraction, protraction, retraction, protraction, and hold. It's getting difficult. Retraction, protraction, retraction, protraction, retraction and protraction, retraction and protraction. That's 4, and hold. So somewhere around like 3 to 5 retraction protractions, and then hold the protraction. Here you go again. There's no real set number that you have to do. You know, just do a few retraction protractions and then hold the protraction, shoulder blades apart, really reaching out through the palms. Ooh, now relax a little bit, just for a second or two. I'm going to move on now into forearm extension and flexion. So there's flexion and then extension. And there's rotation. So that's supination and pronation. Supination and pronation. And you can mix it up a little. Point is to get the elbows and the wrists to start to loosen up, get your full range of motion happening. Okay, now we're going to move on to forearm extension and flexion with an isometric hold. Right, so I'm extending and flexing, extending and flexing. I'm going to do that like 10 times just to start waking up the muscles. And some lateral and ulnar deviation. There's ulnar, there's radial. Ulnar, radial deviation. Ulnar, radiation, radial deviation. Now we're going to do pushing. And I'm letting the shoulder blades protract, and I'm reaching out through the hands, reaching out through the fingers. I'm imagining shooting laser beams out my fingers. Relax everything on the way back, and stretch everything outward on the way forward. Reach out through all the fingers and thumbs, relax on the way back. Reach out through the fingers and thumbs, relax on the way back. Feel free to move at a slower pace if you need to. Probably do about 10 of these. Really get the blood moving out the front. Now we're going to do some pulling. So here I'm trying to connect the lats to the hands. I'm contracting my lats. Here on the way back, contract the lats. And I'm closing one finger at a time. So I'm reaching out, contract the lats, close the pinky, then the index, then the thumb. Contract the lats, make the fist. And again, do about, 8 to 10 of those. Okay, now we're going to do forearm extension and flexion with an isometric hold. So I'm doing extension 3 times, really trying to pull the fingers and thumb back towards me, and then hold. Try to hold for between 5 and 20 seconds, depending on your tolerance. And then go to flexion. So push the fingertips and thumbs back towards you. Do this 3 times and then hold for between 5 and 20 seconds. And when you do these isometric holds, be sure to try to contract every muscle in the forearm that's required to pull the fingers back in flexion or to pull the fingers back in extension. And in total here, I'm going to do that extension and flexion cycle 3 times each. And each time I do the cycle, I'm going to do that hold at the end. And each time I do the cycle, I'm going to do the hold for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever you can tolerate. You'll start to get to know your body. After you do this whole hand strengthening routine, which is really just a beginner's level routine, you should feel either normal with no soreness or just the very slightest hint of soreness. If you feel sore, my recommendation to you is to rest for a day and let your arms and wrists and shoulders and back, let it all recover. And then come back to it a day or two later once the soreness is resolved, and reduce all the repetitions and reduce all the hold times. It's we always start very gently with the body if possible. And if you're not sure where your tolerance is, if you're not sure where your window of tolerance is for any of this stuff, then you're going to have to find out. Pushing the fingertips and the thumb back towards me in flexion, really contracting those forearm flexors and holding for about 20 seconds. And I'm also maintaining that hollow hold with a slight pelvis tuck and a very slight thoracic flexion, slight closing of the chest. And shake out the tension, rotate, take a step or two, shake the hands. Shake the body. Now isometrics. So first I set my hollow hold, tuck the pelvis, a little bit of thoracic flexion too, right? Reach my arms all the way out, straighten my elbows, and then squeeze the fists. Try to squeeze the pinky, the ring finger, the middle finger, the index finger, and the thumb. Try to squeeze the thumb towards the pinky finger. Really tighten the forearm muscles on the back of the forearm especially. Try to tighten every muscle now from your fingers up through your wrists and forearms, into your biceps and triceps, lats, back, abdomen, butt, and legs. But if you can, while you're doing this, release the pecs. This is good practice to train using the serratus muscle, which is below your shoulder blades and wraps around onto your rib cage. And also to train using the back surface of the body to do the work rather than the pecs. So I recommend you do this hold 3 times for between 5 and 20 seconds. Shake it out. And I'm just getting like kind of loose now, right? Doing some elbow, shoulder, and wrist flexion and extension before my final isometric hold. Squeeze the fists, tighten every muscle through the wrist, forearms into the biceps, triceps, lat, back, abdomen, butt, and legs, but release the pecs. Also reach out a little bit so you're opening your shoulder blades. Don't let your shoulder blades be inactive. Reach out. Good. Now relax. What am I saying good for? I'm doing all the work here. All right, what's next on the list? Next is our final isometric. And here we're just changing the position to a palm up position with the fist back slightly chambered. So I'm opening the shoulder blades and reaching out, and then I'm closing the fists one finger at a time, activating the lats, pulling them back. And in this position, work all the same muscles that you worked with the fists out, palms down, but emphasize the forearm flexors, biceps, and especially the lats. Also try to release the pecs, just like in the previous isometric. And you can do that moving part with a strong squeeze, or you can just hold it by your side if you like. And when you hold, again, I recommend you hold 3 times, 5 to 20 seconds each time. This whole thing takes less than 15 minutes. And in that time, you will have opened up all these joints and woken up all these muscles, gotten all this blood flow going, and connected your whole body from the center of the body up through the shoulders and out through the arms and hands and fingers and down through your legs into your feet. So afterwards, you should feel much more awake, much more unified. Your hands and forearms should feel a little fatigued, but not too much, right? Remember, we're supposed to ease into it. The idea is we ease into it. Gradually, if you do this over the next 3, 4, or 5 weeks, your hands should feel much stronger. Your body should feel much more alive, limber, lubricated, and unified. And you'll be ready for the next step. Congratulations on making it this far. Thanks for sticking with me. And we'll see you in step number 2 or video number 2 or stage 2 or whatever you call that.